In this video, I demonstrate how I configured RL360 Session to mimic a multi-speaker configuration like Atmos in order to achieve a specific immersive effect for this mix. So the idea here was I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to maintain kind of a lot of the aesthetic, but I wanted to also tweak it a little bit so at least it felt different, at least for the majority of the tracks. So how I chose to do that was to essentially set up a surround setup. It's not a classic surround setup, but it's consists of 10 different speakers, static virtual speakers, if you will, and then a few sound objects. And so that gives me a total of 14 plugin instances to play with here. The tight rhythmic nature of this genre kind of requires a consistent image. So it doesn't really give me too much room for space. I can't move a lot of these sounds around without really being disruptive. So the drums, the percussion, the bass, a lot of the harmonic elements all need to kind of stay static. But in this speaker configuration, I thought it would help to create a little bit of a unique sound. So I call this my Cube Plus setup. Really, so it's not a traditional surround sound setup. I'm actually taking 4 speakers, let's just call the satellites, and I'm placing the left and the right channels at minus 45 degrees and plus 45 degrees. And then I'm doing the same thing with what we would call the surround satellites. They are going to be at a minus on the left side, a minus 135 degrees, and a plus 135 degrees on the right side. And that gives me those 4 speakers, those virtual positions. And then I set up some elevation speakers or some height speakers, and 4 in the exact same configuration, 45 degrees. So in a cube, so just imagine a cube that's sitting at the horizontal level, or the bottom row is sitting at the horizontal level. And I've got the up satellites, and they're elevated by 45 degrees, but they're directly above their lower counterparts. Sorry. So you've got your left channel, and then you have your up left channel, and it's directly above it, 45 degrees from the listener. That puts it about 14 feet away from the listener, whereas the lower satellite, the horizontal satellite, is at 10 feet. So that gives me about 4 milliseconds of additional delay between those 2 speakers, just enough, I believe, to create some separation in the instrument. So in other words, if I were to place one instrument in both the up and the left channel, the up left and the left channel, they're going to be slightly out of time. But if I take and I place one channel of a sound in the left channel and the other one in the up right surround speaker, then I'm going to create a different kind of an interesting spatial effect. That's my thinking as I'm going into this. So, um, so that's generally the idea. Then I call it the plus, or the plus part of the cube is a center channel. That it's just at 0 degrees at 10 feet as well, 10 feet away, and then an LFE sort of. That happens that I put it at negative 45 degrees elevation, but it's still in the center. And that I thought I wanted to keep the low end, these kind of foundational elements, the bass and the kick drum, actually feeling like they're beneath me. They're under, I'm sitting on top of them, as an immersive kind of enhancement. So let's take a look at how I set up the immersive mix. Okay, the first thing I want to show you is how I managed to set up this virtual speaker configuration, and how I am getting all the signals to it. So what I did is I set up 14 aux buses, each one of these AUX buses has one of these plug-in panners on it. And so this, you can see RL1, RL2 as far as my input goes. I've also labeled that as the track. And you can see just from here that these different sends that are on individual channels are being sent to those speakers. So this configuration, as far as the speaker numbering or the channel numbering goes, is pretty consistent. 1 is my left channel, 2 is my right channel, 3 is my center channel, 4 is my LFE. You can kind of call it that. Actually, I labeled it that. 5 would be my left surround, and 6 would be my right surround. And then the upper satellites, the ones that are 45 degrees up, 7 is up left, 8 is up right, 9 is left up surround, and 10 is right up surround. And then these other 4 are my what I call my movers. That just means that I can route any sound into them that I want and automate what how they move in their various positions. So just to give you an idea of what this is looking like here, I've rotated this to my virtual speaker is at 315 degrees, which is minus 45 degrees at 10 feet distance, no elevation. So these are my horizontals. And you can see that with my right channel. Here's my center. Here's my LFE. By the way, on the LFE, what I did is I just inserted a little one-band EQ on there and threw a low pass on there. So all I'm getting is stuff below 160 hertz. And I wanted, again, not the classic Dolby kind of LFE. This was just an idea. I just wanted to put low end things and below me. So I put that EQ on there. And then, yeah, here's my, sorry. My left surround, right surround. Here's my up left channel, which is again at 315. Here's 45 degrees, and that's, you can see the distance became 14.1, and that's what you're seeing all over here. There's right. There's my these are all my left. I'm sorry, my upper satellites. So that's how I set up the kind of routing to this. Now, if we take a look at the individual channels on this in this session, I chose to kind of route a lot of these to specific speakers and they specific virtual positions, and they aren't going to change. For example, this kick drum, very foundational element, it's only going into the center channel and the LFE. Other percussion is going to be routed a little more adventurously to different speaker positions. And then if I wanted to, and I do this on other channel, not so much on the percussion and the drums, but if I want to automate where that sound goes, it's just a matter of automating the mute on these sends, and then I can change the position in an instant. So that saves me a lot of, as you can see, there's a ton of tracks here. If I were to put a plugin instance on every one of these to try and create the positions, it would just be redundant and use a lot of CPU. So so this is how I set it up, get into the bass, same sort of thing. Here's a foundational bass element, center channel, and the LFE. Most of the bass sounds are that way. If you actually look at these big drums, that's what this kind of bright green is. I actually spread those around as well because they're big drums, and so I wanted them to go everywhere. And so and so I set them up to go to the LFE, and it's going to the left one, and this one's going to the upright surround, and so on and so on. So this was intended to just give me kind of an immersive effect for the whole track. And you'll also see that I took a lot of those stereo pairs. Here, let me just go over to this view. And I took a lot of those stereo pairs and split them up into two mono channels. And the reason is so I could actually have access to the different the different channel and route the channel to different speakers. So in other words, this could give me, like for example, on this first two right here after the kick drum, these two. I maintain the left-right integrity because this is coming out of up left surround and this is coming out of up right surround, and so it still maintains that left-right image that Mark worked so hard to get, but I'm able to put it in different places. Now I get a little more adventurous on some of the other instruments. For example, let's see, let's look at. Like some of the guitar tracks is a good example. So you can see how these two and these two work together, where there's kind of this back and forth between them. So I set this one up to be the left channel on the left speaker, left position, and the right channel to be on the right surround position, and that still maintain left right integrity, but now I'm exaggerating the front and back. And that was kind of some of my ideas with that. Still keep maintaining their staticness, these sounds. So again, trying to stick with the aesthetic intent that Mark, the producer, had. So that kind of gives you an idea of how I've done all this. Here's some that are muted at this particular moment, but you'll see as there's a couple places where I get a little crazy with the muting and unmuting with certain instruments because they just kind of ping pong around and whatever. But I'll discuss that as I'm going through and building the mix. So this should give you an idea of what the approach I took to trying to route everything and have access to all the different channels and information, and be able to then spatialize them. So these mover channels, 11, 12, 13, and 14, I did that on kind of some specialty instruments. For example, here's 12 on this string ensemble. They're just the right channel of the string ensemble, and I left the left channel in the left surround. So and then you can also see I really played a lot with gain structure here. And so I wanted to enhance that movement. I wanted to actually hear that more than this. And I just wanted this to be an ambient kind of idea. As I'm working through this, I might actually increase that ambience. So maybe that would be adding, you know, the right surround or something to it as well. So there's still some other possibilities, but I wanted to just start simply to begin with and just kind of make it clean to begin with. But anyway, so there's 13. That synth arpeggiator bounces around. 14 is the right channel of that. So here's a case where I have this one synth bouncing around like crazy with these two mover channels. So I'll discuss that later when I get into the individual families. But this should give you an idea of what I was going for, or how I set the session up so I could have as much control as possible without eating up too much CPU.